Hi everybody, welcome back to Coffee Culture Around the World from Sagebrush Coffee. Last lesson, we talked about the history of the coffee house, and today we will cover the specific role that these venues and the drink itself played in the culture of the Ottoman Empire. Originally, coffee was only accessible to nobility in the Ottoman Empire, but the invention of coffee houses made it available to the public. Since the Ottoman Empire was a primarily Islamic territory, most of its citizens were not able to have liquor, and bars and taverns were therefore out of the question. Coffee houses served as an alternative social hub for these people. But, as we learned in Lesson 1, coffee houses had a much more important role than just being social hubs. They also served as meeting places for educated men of skill to congregate and discuss business, work, and politics, something that we do continue to see around the world today. Discussions in these coffee houses started to heat up as political tension grew in the Ottoman Empire. Sometimes the political debate would get too heated within the coffee house, and a person called a mullah would come and mediate conversations and encourage peace. The mullah would also tell stories and offer moral guidance to the patrons of the coffee houses. These mullah were not very successful because many patrons didn't actually listen to their guidance. Coffee houses continued to grow in popularity and eventually competed with mosques for attendance. Because of the conversations that were held within their walls, some started to refer to them as schools of knowledge. As skepticism grew about caffeine's effect on one's actions, people in high political and religious positions also began to feel threatened by these informal schools of knowledge as they heard about the political debates happening within their walls. They worried that the people within the coffee houses would start using them as meeting places for rebellions. The raids of the 1530s that we talked about last lesson sparked the movement to bring coffee to other places, but they were not the only efforts to get rid of coffee in the Ottoman Empire. The drink itself and the coffee houses that it was served in fell in and out of popularity throughout the 16th and 17th centuries. In 1663, these efforts were taken to an extreme as the consumption of coffee was declared a capital offense by Sultan Murad IV. He sent out janissaries to frequent cafes and search the streets in order to kill anybody consuming, roasting, or trading coffee. The Sultan's own brother and uncle were included in the list of offenders who lost their lives. After Sultan Murad IV's declaration ended, additional coffee bans were put in and out of place well into the 18th century. However, the fact that coffee and coffee houses had already spread to so many other European countries by this time decreased the effects of these bans. If people couldn't buy or sell coffee in the Ottoman Empire, they could just go somewhere else. One last thing I want to discuss about coffee in the Ottoman Empire is what kind of coffee was actually served. Citizens of the empire were not sitting in these ancient coffee houses drinking caramel lattes. Instead, they were drinking traditional Turkish coffee. The name Turkish coffee can be a bit misleading because the drink itself actually originated in Yemen. It just happened to gain its popularity in Turkey during the reign of Sultan Suleiman I, which is how it got its name. Turkish coffee is a thick, rich drink made exclusively from Arabica beans. The beans must be ground very fine into a powdery consistency because this type of coffee is not filtered. It is prepared in a traditional copper bowl called an Ebrick or a chesve by boiling water, adding the coffee grounds, and performing a specific series of stirring motions and heat adjustments. Here I have an Ebrick that my coworker brought in. You'll probably see these around because although they're not commonly used and practiced with in the United States, it is a common piece of decor or collector's item. They're pretty easy to find and get your hands on if you're interested in trying to brew Turkish coffee at home. When serving, the coffee must be poured right away to maintain the desired foam on top. It is served in a glass called a Fincon and must have at least 1/2 or 1 centimeter of foam on top to actually be considered Turkish coffee. The drink itself is served with a glass of water, which is used to cleanse the palate while drinking, and sometimes a treat such as baklava or a Turkish delight. Turkish coffee is still enjoyed today and is most popular in Eastern Europe. Next lesson, we'll be traveling from the Ottoman Empire to Italy to talk about the Italian coffee culture and the birthplace of espresso. Make sure to stay tuned for this lesson and subscribe if you're watching on YouTube. I'm Kourtney, and I'll see you next time.